to another episode of the Author Showcase. We're brought to you by the National Black Community News and JNF Enterprises, where we bring you some of the best, brightest, most intellectual writers and authors from across not just across the nation, but actually across the globe too. It's an honor to come before you all today again. So I want to thank you all for tuning in. For those of you that are on the Facebook Live, we ask that you go ahead and you can share it out, share it out, share it out, please, for us. We want to get your comments too as well. So if you want to if you have any questions that have come along, then we welcome those that will come along because I'm excited about this the guest that we have part of the showcase today. It is just going to be a phenomenal conversation, a deep conversation that we're going to be having today. And I'm going to introduce our guest, but then I'm going to let him introduce himself and tell us a little bit about who he is. And then we'll get into the conversation about his book, being an author, being an attorney, being a speaker, and all of those great things. And this is none other than brother attorney, brother Malik Shabez Esquire. And brother Shabez, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Fine, fine. Thank you for having me on.
No, absolutely, absolutely. I want to thank you for joining us. It's an honor and a pleasure to have you to be a part of the Author Showcase. So thank you for doing this, and like I said, I look forward to the conversation that we're going to have. But I'd like you to start off by just telling the people just a little bit about who you are, your background, just a little bit about your background, and then we'll kind of get into our conversation about your book, and then about being an author and a writer.
All right, thank you so much. My name is Malik Shabez. I am from Los Angeles, California. I came to Washington, D.C. in 1980. I attended Howard University undergrad, and I went to Howard University School of Law. I, uh, I started working with the Nation of Islam in college. I've worked under such D.C. figures as Mayor Marion Barry. I'm an attorney at law, and I fight civil rights cases, police cases, and I published a newspaper before for the New Black Panther Party. Moreover, my career, I served Khalid Muhammad, the title of my man who's the subject of writing, the Book of Khalid. I served Khalid Muhammad and his assistant. And this is the story of my journey with him and his great works as the national representative of Louis Farrakhan, the Nation of Islam, and his journey as the leader of the New Black Panther. And I also have chaired the New Black Panther Party after Khalid Muhammad.
Really? Okay.
I've been in the liberation struggle, firmly been in the legal struggle, in the student struggle. I've been in the Washington D.C. political struggle, and I offer Book of Khalid as part of my life, certainly his life. Khalid.
Well, do me a favor because it was I don't know if the audience may be having a difficult time to hear you as well. Do you have a like earbuds that you could put in to kind of or do you have a because I know you kind of fading in and out just a little bit.
Can you hear me now? I can move.
Yeah, that's a little better. Yep. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a little better.
close. All right.
Yeah, that's good. That's actually good. So, just start that a little bit of touch. If you could just talk a little bit about the end part that you were talking about, being a part of you said the new Black Panther Party, because I thought that was interesting.
New Black Panther Party. The website of the New Black Panther Party is at blackpanthermovement.org. Blackpanthermovement.org. New Black Panther Party, as it is written in the Book of Khalid, as it is written in the Book of Khalid, began in 1989, and Khalid Muhammad was over. It was in 1994, and many of you saw in 1998 the New Black Party led by Khalid Muhammad, where
Uh-huh.
they they took on the case of James Byrd, beheaded and dragged behind a truck in Jasper, Texas. Any of
Oh
you
wow.
know that? So there's a whole chapter here on just Jasper, Texas, and the murder of James Byrd, the decapitation of him by white supremacists, and the important role that Khalid Muhammad played in that. That is the origins of this new Black Panther Party.
Okay.
And what it does today, sir, is the new Black Panther Party continues to fight against the things that are important to many Black Americans. And that is inequality, racism, white supremacy, saw that in Donald Trump, police brutality. That's what the new Black Panther Party fights against. My legal organization, Black Lawyers for Justice, trains the new Black Panther Party with legal training. And so we're very conscious that Black youth and Black people need to know their rights. They need to know the law. This book here talks about some important legal victories I, as an attorney, achieved for Khalid Muhammad as his attorney. And so all of this, new Black Panther Party and the book of Khalid, it's all about, brother, educating our people, educating and equipping our people for the struggle that we're in today.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I totally agree with that. Now, now, what got you started writing? Is this your first book that you've written?
My first book, yes, sir.
Now, what made you want to write? What made you want to write first, and then we'll get into what made you want to write this particular book.
Well, when I believe in something, somebody, I believe strongly. And I believe strongly in my mentor. Well, I'm not writing this book as if some have looked back and you know, I walked with Khalid Muhammad, so I know the story from the inside out. As I grow and develop in the years since he passed in 2001, I realized just not only how important his life is, but how important the subject matters of what his life is. This is why we write, right? We write, my dear brother, because we don't have a lot of good contemporary history on our liberation struggle. When we look at the books we have, my friend, we have a lot of books from the 60s. We have new books on Malcolm X and Dr. Martin Luther King and even the Black Panthers that dominate our shelves in Black History Month. How many Black History Months, how many books do we have out now that tell us about Million Man March, which happens to be the largest gathering of Black?
Let's see. I think.
Can you still hear me? Can you still hear me? All right, I'm hoping we still on. Well, I'm gonna keep on talking. Seemed like his screen froze. Well, anyway. Let me start again. I don't know. Hello? Okay. I can't hear you. I need to hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now? I was muted.
Gotta get back home. Okay,
Sit up just a little bit so you're closer to the mic. Yes, so we can hear you in the mic.
So what we're saying is that my book, the Book of Khalid, is a contemporary book. It's a book on contemporary Black history that we need to know about our struggle in the 1980s and the 1990s. Okay,
Mhm.
just for example, we're in Black History Month. How many books tell us about the Million Man March, which happens to be a demonstration in 1995 that dwarfed the size of the 1963 March on Washington? We don't have books that tell us about that. We don't have books that tell us, a lot of books that tell us about the Los Angeles riots, which are the predecessor to the so-called riots or rebellions we see last year against police brutality. And so this book here, that's why we write. We write because we need to know our history of what has happened recently if we are
Mhm.
connect the dots. That's one important reason. Khalid Muhammad is a very important man to understand, and that's another reason we write the history. I know what a great man he is, and I want to share that history with us. Those are two of the reasons that we write this book.
Yeah, and that's a great and a very important point that you made, because the I guess the like you said, the modern history isn't, of course, in the history books. It's not a lot of things. Not a lot of that is taught, of course, in schools, especially during this particular month. To me, Black History is every day 365. So we should always be continually learning about who we are and those great people and those moments in history that we need to be aware of. I mean, case in point is, and I don't know if you watched it or not, but the movie that just came out, Judas and the Judas and the I'm sorry, Judas and the um, oh, why does my mind just go blank with that?
The Black Messiah,
Yeah, Jesus and the Black Messiah.
Judas and the Black Messiah.
Yeah, Judas and the Black Messiah. It's that story about Brother Hampton is deep, and not too many people know that story about him and all that went on with it. It's things like that that I think that we get educated on, and even the movie One Night in Miami. Those are things that that movie about them that we didn't know about or don't know about. And it's important for us to be able to to see it, not only just see it, but to understand it too, to know that history and everything too.
Well, we're taught that history is most attractive and best qualified to reward our research. And if we know what happened yesterday, we understand today. And if we understand today, we'll be better prepared for tomorrow. My dear brother, there is no history and no culture that is as rich and diverse as Black culture, because it is such an authentic culture, because it comes up out of the struggle of a people who are struggling for humanity and struggling for justice. And therefore, our history is so complex and so diverse and so vibrant as compared to any other race who has not been through what we've been through. Okay, and so we must have more details on our history. We must know and celebrate our heroes and our sheroes, because our children, brother, I have to, this book here is my aim and intention to have this well-referenced book here in Black Studies departments and in African Studies departments in colleges and universities throughout America. That is our objective for the next fall and school year. We have to compile history. Another reason for this, brother, if we don't write our history, they will continue to tell us what our history is. They will continue to limit our history, and we will just complain about our history. But now we have a chance to tell. We read a lot of things on the Nation of Islam. You mentioned, I think, One Night in Miami. You mentioned a lot of things about the Nation of Islam. We've heard and written a lot of things have been written about the Nation of Islam. Some of it has not been written by us and our scholars. And so maybe when we read books about the Nation of Islam and Black people who love Malcolm X, and Malcolm X is deservedly loved, we should love Malcolm X. but maybe Black people haven't really understood the Nation of Islam the way they should, right? So this book offers a more fair and objective information on that very prolific organization that we read so much about, the Nation of Islam. So if you're a Malcolm X reader, you should read the book of Khalid because it's another take on the Nation of Islam that you may not have gotten from outsiders. You know, also Khalid Muhammad walks a similar path of Malcolm X. Yes, he has similarities that's constantly in the book. So again, if you this is the next step up after being acquainted with Malcolm X for those of your readers who are in this readership format.
Now, what made you? I want you to do two things. One, if you can, just give us an overview of what the book is about, and then what made you want to write the book about Brother Khalid? What was it that said that you made you think, "Wow, this is something that I believe needs to be put in a book," and then, like you said, something that is a part of the history that need to be told.
So who is Khalid Muhammad? Khalid Muhammad is the former national spokesman for Minister Louis Farrakhan. Minister Louis Farrakhan is perhaps the most popular mass leader of our generation. You're talking about the 1980s to 1990s. Khalid Muhammad was his spokesman. Khalid Muhammad also was the only person in the United States history that has ever been officially and formally denounced by the United States House of Representatives and the United States Senate. That same House of Representatives and the United States Senate that cannot gain enough votes to formally condemn Donald Trump found enough votes to formally condemn a Black man, a children of slaves. His name was Khalid Muhammad. This book tells all about how that happened and why that happened. So Khalid Muhammad is a person that if you Google him, Khallid Muhammad, you will say, wow, this guy was a controversial guy. This guy was denounced by the Vice President of the United States. Khalid Muhammad went all over America, and sometimes, like at Howard University, where I was a student, there were overflow audiences. Those of you who were aware of our struggle in the 1990s, you often saw Khalid Muhammad live on national TV. You saw him live on C-SPAN. You saw him live on national television. You saw him live with Phil Donahue, one of the greatest interviews of all time. So Khalid Muhammad is a man that just needs to be reintroduced through his book, the Book of Khalid. Let's look at who else is in his book to see who he touched or how he touched. We watched Rudy Giuliani. He's supposed to be the tough guy for Trump, and he has a big reputation as a tough guy, right? Well, Khalid Muhammad and Giuliani are extensively written about in chapter 19, the Million Youth March, because Khalid Muhammad went toe to toe with Giuliani in New York when Giuliani was the mayor. And we will show you how Khalid Muhammad handled Mr. Tough Guy, Giuliani, because he wasn't so tough when he faced up against Khalid Muhammad, as we beat him in court and we politically beat Rudy Giuliani. But the mighty struggle. This book talks about a big struggle between Khalid Muhammad and Giuliani. So that would be of interest. You talk about Jasper, Texas. Did any of you see in the listening audience, did you all see the HBO movie Jasper? Jasper. That was a very popular HBO movie about the terrible incident of Brother James Byrd, who had his head chopped off while being drugged behind trucks in 1998. Got to read, got to know that history. Okay, so Khalid Muhammad led the new Black Panthers in Jasper, Texas. Khalid Muhammad is the one that rose to national prominence because he and Black men armed with guns went to Jasper, Texas, and eventually ran the Klan from Jasper, Texas. And they have established something that then today. So this militancy you see today, you see, Brother Leroy, you online, you see an increased militancy, right? You see increased militancy today. You see Black men with guns today, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
You see, you see, you see a more militant atmosphere. A lot of that is connected, my brother, to Khalid Muhammad. So he's a very important figure. But he's a very important figure. So if you want to know about struggle in this era, if you want to know about the challenges that a black leading figures in our community has faced, you want to know about the story of Khalid Muhammad. He's one of the most brilliant black men. The book talks about his brilliance. This book talks about his commitment to Africa. It talks about how he was a friend of Muammar Gaddafi. It talks about Gaddafi in this book. We talk about Idi Amin. Well, they taught us, white people taught us that Idi Amin was a cannibal. Well, what about Khalid Muhammad and Idi Amin? What was Idi Amin really about? Was he really trying to overthrow apartheid in South Africa?
Mhm.
This book is chocked with black history. We got to know our history, and this is a man that we want to know about, Khalid Muhammad, because he's a great teacher and he's a great freedom fighter for our people.
Now, what's the message that you want the reader to come away with after they've finished reading about the Book of Khalid? What do you want them? What do you want them to come away with? What's the mission of you? What the message that you want them to come away with?
There's a price to struggle. There's a price if you really want to be free. And this is a story of a man who paid that price. Here's a story of a man that gave it all since he was a very young man. He gave it all to teach, to recruit, to train his people, to build an organization for his people, and to liberate for his people. Here's a man that suffered immense persecution and denunciation, yet he did not wither. Here's a man that was denounced, even he was denounced by some of the most powerful people in the world, brother. He was denounced by the Anti-Defamation League. He was denounced by, again, I say the vice president. He was denounced by powerful Jewish organizations. He was denounced even by some of his own. He was denounced by Reverend Jesse Jackson. He was renounced by the NAACP. He was even suspended by his own leader, Minister Louis Farrakhan. How did he deal with that? What kind of character did it take to withstand all of that and to keep going and fighting for his people is something that the reader needs to take away from this. Reader needs to take away from this, my dear brothers, that when you stand for something that's right, you're going to have to stand and you're going to have to withstand. And I think there's a scripture that says, greater is he that is in me than is he that is in the world. And the message that was deposited inside of Khalid Muhammad was a message deposited in a man that he decided that the truth that he represented of our uncompromising liberation, that we must have reparations and we must have it by any means necessary, that we must have an end to police brutality by any means necessary, that we don't want to live in a world of white racism and white supremacy. And I'm going to fight for that, teach for that, and organize for that. I'm willing to die for that. And he's, as he says, even willing to kill for that. This is a story of a man that is 100% zealously committed to the liberation of his people from the cradle to the grave. And a reader can take away from that, man. Now, that is the height of dedication. Khalid Muhammad in this book, at one point he goes to prison, he bounces back. At another point, he is suspended, he bounces back. At another point, he's ostracized as a relic of the past, and he bounces back. And in life, my dear brother, we're going to take hits and we got to bounce back. We might take some illness, we might take disease, we might get fired from a job, we might be misunderstood and denounced. But God gives you a message, dear brother. You carry it out all the way to the end, even if they put you on the cross and they put him on a certain type of political cross, and he did not deny the truth that he was given. And so I think people will find him a fascinating figure. Fascinating. His name is Khalid Abdul Muhammad, and he is the subject of this book, that great spokesman. for the Nation of Islam and that fighter for our people.
And that's the interesting thing about Brother Khalid and those of that generation. They were willing to pay the what I say was pay the cost of their of the and that make that sacrifice so that you and I could be here right now doing what we do. That
Right,
sacrifice that our parents and our grandparents and our great grandparents that they paid, they were willing to sacrifice and to be able to pay that cost. And many of us today don't understand that. Like you said, willing to lose a job, willing to not make as much money as we can in this system that we're in and everything like that. It's you don't have a lot of us today that are willing to do what Brother Khalid and like I said, our parents and our grandparents that came before us were willing to pay. Because I remember having a conversation with my mother, and this was a couple of years ago or something like that. But I was talking about that I was talking about the civil rights era, and I asked her, I was just like, you know, what's the difference between then and now? And she said, in regards to fighting, fighting for the liberation of us and everything like that, because that's a constant and consistent struggle. But she said we were willing to risk it all. She said we didn't have anything. We didn't have anything, so we knew that there was something that we were fighting for because we didn't have anything, and it was going to put us, meaning us, this next generation, in a better position because of what they were believing to fight for and willing to lose, or to pay the cost for to be able to lose. So it's just when we talk about brothers like brother Khalid, who aren't talked about when it comes to, like you said, willing to pay that cost and willing to say, you know what, no, I love my people that much that I want to make sure that, hey, even if I'm not here, that beyond me, that things get better, because I've always believed that it's every generation's responsibility to make it better for the next generation. And I think that Brother Khalid is one of those that believed that, stood for that, and walked in, like you said, he walked in that, and everything like that. So that's just something that comes from, I think that comes from individuals like that, and I'm glad that you tell his story so that people can know of brothers like him, that aren't talked about as much as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, as Malcolm X, as Dr. King, as all of the others, or even Fred Hampton, all of those that we may know, but even those brothers that the good folks that may not know of Brother Khalid. I know I've listened to him, and the brother did not play. And let folks know he
and,
did not play.
right, and he didn't play. And he was serious. And so I say, so if you're a reader here, if you're into Fred Hampton because the movie's out, you want to have the book of Khalid. If you're into Malcolm X, you want to have the book of Khalid. If you've heard about Louis Farrakhan, well, his history is in here. A lot of history of
Yeah.
Farrakhan is in here. Now let's go here, my brother. At Howard University, I was taught that all of my education that I was gained at Howard was to be put into service for the liberation of my people. All right. I thought it was just a quote, but something happened. Okay. What happened was is that and it's told in this book. So the student activists that's here, the college student, the high school student, the young activists, I want you to pay attention because the story of Malik Shabez, the young college activist, the supporter of Khalid Muhammad is in here. And you're going to gain from reading this, and you're going to gain insight into this. And it's going to answer your question, brother, on a price that must be paid and how generationally that was transferred, okay? Because this book talks about my price and
Mm.
the price that I paid as a young man and how I'm telling it in this story to transfer this to another generation to let them know the price of liberation and also the crown of the victory. So this book talks about the fact how I met Khalid Muhammad, how I was shaped by him as a college student and an organizer. It talks in chapter 7, Student Warrior, about how I participated in demonstrations on behalf of the Nation of Islam. It talks about how I participated in Howard University student takeover, because the author Josh Myers, in his book mentioned, okay, so it talks about the student activists in the late 80s and early 90s. Then it comes back in chapter 14. It talks about Khalid Muhammad goes to world condemnation now. He's on the news every night. You know how you see Trump on the news every night? There was a time when Khalid Muhammad was on the news every night as the boogeyman. Okay. And so we knew Khalid Muhammad at Howard, and we decided that after he became the national boogeyman, that I would support him. And it became controversial on the campus of Howard University then to bring Khalid Muhammad, even though he had continuously been there. So this book in chapter 14 talks about those rallies at Howard University with Khalid Muhammad and how they were packed to the wall at the Blackburn Ballroom and Crampton Auditorium, and all of the pressures that Malik Shabez, the law student, underwent for bringing him and sponsoring him, and also being vilified for supporting Mr. Khalid Muhammad's positions. This book talks about in chapter 14 that the vice president of Howard University came at the top rally, at the heat of the biggest rally we ever had, one of the strongest in Black college history. It's called the Black Holocaust at Howard University, April 1990. And it was 2,000 on the inside. It was 1,000 on the outside. All the national media were there. The vice president met me, talks about in the book, chapter 14. She met me in the hallway and she pointed her finger at me. She said, "Young man, you're gonna cost this university $30 million. And she was basically saying that I was going to be responsible for the financial destruction of Howard University because of the revolutionary activity that my group, Unity Nation, was conducting. They were telling me at that time, dear brother, you're never going to make it out of law school. They were telling me the university is going to get you. You'll never become a lawyer. And sir, they were out to get me. This book talks about that it was Jewish and white professors at the law school. They had a motion to Dean Ramsey and the censor. I was talking about me all across the country. It talks about how I, my brother, had to make a political and a moral decision of whether I was going to fold or whether I was going to stand. And this book talks about how I took a stand for my brother, Khalid Muhammad, and I became respected as he was respected in a smaller sense. Well, what happened, Malik Shabez? And then the same bad names that they call him, they began to call me, okay? And the same victories that he had will be some of the same victories I had. So I want to say, just to wrap that point, my brother, that I've given a good portion and risked my career to support Khalid Muhammad. I risked my career when he passed to support the new Black Panther Party and to gain enemies out here. But I'm also here to report to your authors that I am a successful attorney at law, that I am a successful businessman here in Washington, D.C., and that I have been blessed individually and personally, even though I gave my life supporting Khalid Muhammad and carrying out some pretty radical and revolutionary things. So I'm an encouragement to the young people, my brothers. Join the liberation struggle. Give your life to help your people. You will be okay. Give your life for the liberation of your people. You may face trial. You may face persecution. I can't even guarantee you, brother, you'll live, but Khalid Muhammad gave 53 years, and even though it was just 53 years, my brother, you want to have 53 rocking years like this. You can give me 50. If you can write this about me, because it's going on into eternity. You know, you know, you have to stand for something, brother. And that's what Attorney Shabaz's story is about. I continue to stand for what's right, and God has blessed me.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, did writing brother Khalid's biography, did it teach you something about him that you didn't know?
Oh yes, many things about him. I started researching. You think you know all about your subject, but you don't. So I was able to search the FBI files against Khalid Muhammad,
Oh
and I
wow. Hmm.
understand that his FBI files show that Khalid Muhammad was of serious importance to the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and that the same tricks and tactics that the counterintelligence program and the FBI against Malcolm X and against the Black Panthers from the 1960s were some of the same tactics that they used against Khalid Muhammad and the Nation of Islam. Those are some things that I didn't know. I just learned just truly how much of a multifaceted person he is. Okay, so he's like at what is it, 31 years old. He's a professor. He's a professor at Cal State Los Angeles. He's also the leader of the Nation of Islam for the entire Western region, and he becomes proficient as a military trainer. He's again a top ranked Black Studies professor at a college, and he's also the top activist in the entire city of Los Angeles, all at the same time. I'm just trying to figure out how does he do all of this all at the same time, and it comes back to this the fascinating aspect of him being totally dedicated. So I know him to be totally dedicated. But when I look back at all that he did and how he spent his time, I mean, brother, this man is a complete zealot when it comes to dedicating his life to activity for the liberation of our people. And that's what I'm reminded of, just how dedicated he was. And that's fascinating to me. I think you kind of went out, my brother. Did your sound go out?
Yeah, yeah, not my meat. Yeah, it muted me. But I'm sorry. Go back and talk. I know you were talking about what you learned about Brother Khalid Muhammad in writing this book,
Well, again,
or what it taught you about him. Hmm.
one thing I'm learning having written the book is just how many people love and respect him, and all throughout the internet. And he's an icon in the rap industry. I mean, I know your audience is in the hip hop. A lot of your books are about hip hop, and
Yep.
I'm talking about is the man that they heard on those Public Enemy albums. Public Enemy, that is, he's that man that said, "Have you forgotten that once we were brought here, we were robbed of our name, robbed of our land. We lost our culture, our religion, our God.
Hmm.
Many of us, by the way we act, we lost our minds." That was that voice you heard on Public Enemy album, the
Yep.
song Night of the
Yep.
Living Beast, talking about the crack cocaine.
Hmm.
Heard on the Ice Cube albums and all of that. So Khalid Muhammad, for the young people that are watching, the rappers, you need to know about that the main political figure that the rappers were in love with. Okay, so what I come to find out, my brother, is how many people actually respect Khalid Muhammad. And going about my and in the responses since the book has gone out, I get to understand truly how many people admired and respected his strong stance. He used to say, brother, somebody's got to say it. Me and we might be in a certain position and we can't say all that needs to be said. But Khalid Muhammad said the thing he wanted to say about really
Absolutely.
we need somebody like that. So this
Yeah.
is a story of what a man goes through when he's that unapologetic, that raw. I mean, he turns up everywhere he goes. But let's look at here, my brother. There's some other people in this book that we need to know about. They are historic figures to read. Got Marion Barry. Marion Barry is written about in this book. We talked about it before, the Los Angeles riots. This is modern history that's connected to this. What's the story behind the LA riots and the rebellion? We hear about Nipsey Hussle and the gang, and him, the young brother who was a member of the Rolling 60s who passed. But what about Khalid Muhammad and the Rolling 60s gang members of the LA riots? Well, they're all in this book. The rappers are all in this book. And again, you have people like Joe Biden. Senator Joe Biden cast a vote against Khalid Muhammad as a United States senator, and you have other famous politicians, Newt Gingrich, Bob Dole, and others. And so there's a lot of history. This that history of that 80s, and this that history of that 90s that closes the gap between the history of the 60s and the histories of the Black Panthers under Huey Newton. This is the history we've been talking. We've been talking a lot of Dr. King. They gave us a little bit of Malcolm X, but you can find it in the schools, but you still can get you Malcolm X history. Black Panther history, there's good Black Panther history, Seize the Time, and other books that have been out. Blood in My Eye, Taste of Power. Now we pick up that history, the book of Khalid from the mid-70s all the 2000s.
Let me ask you this. And what did writing the book about Brother Khalid teach you about you? I know we talked about what you learned about him, but did it teach you anything about you? Did you bring anything from it about yourself being around him? Because and like you said, being a young college student, being a law student, did it teach you anything about one being around him, but then writing this book? Did that teach you anything about you too?
About therapy. There are some autobiographical accounts of my life book.
Lean up towards the mic.
And there's some autobiographical accounts, right, of my life in the book. Okay. So when I write and go back into my service with Khalid Muhammad, I'm able to get closure to understand that what I did was important and it was correct. And I learned that even though I had been rejected by some even in my own family, I was able to go back and say, wow, this was an important contribution that I was able to make through helping Khalid Muhammad. And therefore I learned about myself to have pride in what I did, fight the naysayers. That was number one. Number two, what I learned about myself was when I'm committed to something, I'm committed. This is how committed I was. Now, here's the question coming up again. How committed are you, Malik? Malik, you have to do his biography and you have to do it right. It might take 528 pages like this here, and it might take 940 footnotes. You have to do it. How committed are you? You say you're committed to Khalid Muhammad, but now I want you now to give it up again. I want you now to give up those weeks. I want you now to give up those nights. I want you now, Malik, to face the pressure because you didn't miss this deadline. You didn't miss that deadline. Now everybody's on your back and you ain't but halfway done and you got papers everywhere. I want you to toughen up. I want you to man up. Are you a man or are you a mouse, man? So I'm telling you, this book right here was put me through it. I mean, like about 3 months, I had no cable. I lived like a prisoner in my house. I went nowhere. I spoke to no one. Every time they would talk to me, book. I said, I'm so tired. Book. Brother, it took a lot. It perhaps putting these 528 pages was the hardest single thing I ever did. Because you can try a legal case, right? But after a couple of weeks, the trial gonna be over. You know what I mean? At best, it's gonna last 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, okay. But I'm telling you, a year of just writing, giving it up. You got to go to work. You got to take care of your daughters. You got family obligations. You got to get back to the computer. Then you got to worry about editing. Oh, editing. The nightmares of editing.
Yes, sir.
I see why a lot of books don't come out. Only one in 2,500 who set out to write a book actually have it published. But man, brother, I thank God, and it makes a stronger man out of me. That's what it does. It makes a stronger human out of me, and I believe after doing this that I could do anything. If I did this, I could do it. If this was
Wow. That's good stuff. Now, with this being your first book, what advice would you give to someone who now may ask you, brother Malik, I want to be a writer. I got this book I think inside me. What advice would you give to them?
my advice. I love the question. Different than other programs. My advice to the young writer is first make an outline of your book and start building it, putting your information in. Have your work critiqued by a developmental editor, somebody that reads or knows books, so that they could just read it and kind of get you up to speed on writing. Just assume that you know what you're doing when you're writing. That's another thing. So you have to have an outline. For some of us to get kick-started, you may need to use oral transcription to recollect what you did orally. Oral transcription, edit them down, help you. That's the way I did my book, but I don't know if it was exact. That gave me, this was like 177,000 words. Brother, it started with 600,000.
Wow. Well, but you're an attorney though too, so you know y'all attorneys, y'all used to writing the
Make that outline. If you find it helpful, use oral transcription. You're going to have to dedicate time to the project. I mean, there's going to have to be focused and consistent. So if you're gonna get your project out, you're gonna have to put some mandatory time into it. Start off smaller. Don't try to write 528 pages. Hey, get that outline and get going. Might have footnotes right now. I don't know. Well, you can build that after that. Kind of start off small. Start with your outline. Dedicate a certain amount of time per week where you're going to advance your book. And most of all, you got to believe what you write. Because if you don't believe in what you write, then you ain't not going to give it up. You're not going to time. You're not going to don't feel like doing it. You're not hyped about it. You know, now I did this based on a need, but this was necessary for my people. So I kind of like put my whole life.
absolutely. So what's next for you? What do you have going on now or coming up? You're kind of fading out.
You have to write. Not only do you have to write the book, you have to promote it. Okay? I'm on Google, and I'm going to Google all over America. Find the facts. I'm on Facebook at Malik Shabez. We're also at thebookofkhalid.com. Thebookofkhalid.com. And this is where you can find my information, okay? I'm going to be in Minnesota doing book signings. I do something like this. I have book signings, and then because I'm a part of the movement, we do Black Unity community walks with the new and I also do Black lawyers. I do all of this. I'm heavily involved with the community. That's another tip to all. That's That's why they want my book. They know Malik Shabazz repping hip hop. I'm organized. Okay, so I'm in Minneapolis on March 13th. I'm in Baltimore on March 14th. I'm in Norfolk, Virginia on March 21st. I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina on March 22nd. I'm in Washington, D.C. on April 3rd and 4th. I'm in Atlanta on April 16th. I'm in Tallahassee, Florida on April 17th and 18th. I'm in Tampa, Florida and St. Petersburg on the April 18th. I'm in Brooklyn on the May 25th. I'm in Brooklyn on May 22nd. I'm in Harlem on May 23rd. I'll be in New York. What am I saying, brother? I'm all over the country.
Yeah, that's a lot of traveling, brother. Now, did you say Baltimore? Did you say you want to be in Baltimore?
Baltimore on the 14th. Host of Reality Speak. Follow me
Wait a
on
minute. Say it one more time for me, because I couldn't hear you.
March 14th. I'm in Baltimore. I'm guest of the group Reality Speaks. And you can follow me
Okay, I'm familiar with that.
if you catch me on Instagram at Malik Zulu Shabazz Esquire. It's Malik Zulu Shabazz ESQ on Instagram. I'll be announcing my schedule. Okay. And my other website, you can follow my schedule. It's going to be on blackrightsmatter.org. blackrightsmatter.org. That's where I handle my police brutality cases. That's why I review cases of people that have been harmed by the police. Also, it announces my schedule for my book, because I also do legal trainings when I go out with my book.
Okay. No, that's awesome. That is awesome, brother. Brother, it has been, like I told you, I've been looking forward to this conversation. It's been an honor and a pleasure to have you on here. I just want you to give some last words, if you will, to close us out about the Book of Khalid, and like you said, and I like that you emphasized it being a part of Black history. Not that we're in February, but it being a part of Black history.
My sisters and brothers, this is the book you want. This Black History Month. We are correct. All 365 days. I mean, this is that book in 2021 that everybody rave review. A lot of people get strong 5-star reviews. You want to know this history about Khalid Abdul Muhammad. You want to go Google him online. You want to watch some of his videos. You want to know more about this man and myself as a committed person to this book and my experiences with it. Please go out, check out the Book of Khalid. Buy Black books on Black history. Support Black authors and Black publishers. I'm a Black publisher. All the Black books that come out. There's nothing more valuable here with a child, here with a friend that's a book. Internet is okay, sisters and brothers, and it's all right even to go on Kindle, but it's nothing like old school. You can have more book, page, something that goes into soul, but you got a good book. I'm telling you, books have transformed lives, okay? There's books. Bible is a book. Quran is a book. Many people testify that books that they have read have had a transformative effect on their life, and that's my message. Read books like the Book of Khalid have a transformative. Okay?
Wow. I love it. I love it. I love it, man. Like I've said, the author showcase has just brought me into connection with so many great authors that have such powerful messages. So I thank you, brother Malik, for coming on to the author showcase, sharing your story of brother Khalid Muhammad's story with us, so that we could know of great men like him that have been that played such a vital part of who we are as a people, and us moving forward as a people. And I hope that people don't, that those of us in the community don't take that lightly, and have an understanding of who this man was, and what he did for the community and for the culture. So I thank you for coming and sharing your story, sharing his story on the Author Showcase. Like I said, I consider it an honor, the National Black Unity News as well, because the National Black Unity News and JNF Enterprises, we are about our community and about making us better. That's what it's all about. It's about us learning so that we can be better and that we will do better. And when we learn of brother like Brother Khalid, when we learn about men like him, we have an understanding of who we are. We have an understanding of where we're going, where we need to go, what we need to do, and all of those things. So I appreciate it. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to the Author Showcase. It's your boy, the Impact Builder, Leroy McKenzie Jr. This has been another episode of the Author Showcase. As I always say, this year, 2021, it's about leaving the familiar, but to elevate your influence. And what better way to elevate your influence by being influenced by the Book of Khalid, brought to you by Malik Zulu Shabez, attorney at law, Esquire. Because I'm telling you, you pick that book up, you're going to learn something and you're going to be better off. I promise you, you will be better after you read that book than you were before you read that book. And I can say that without a doubt to me about any of the authors that the Author Showcase brings to you, because we want to make you better. So what better way than to do that, than to educate you intellectually? Like I said, this month I have a 28-day challenge, and it's not about all these other challenges that you see out here. I have a challenge, so I challenge everyone to go get this book right now. Give the website address one more time before we go, where they can go and pick up the book.
To thebookofkhalid.com, the Book of Khalid, KHALID.com. It's on Amazon. You can put my name in Amazon, Malik Zulu Shabazz. Here this week, you go to Barnes and Nobles, Walmart, Target, the Book of Khalid, and the website is bookofkhalid.com. That's where you can get the book right away. You can get the Kindle version right on your phone right away. Read more about what you have heard me listen. All right.
Absolutely, and you can go on to the National Black Unity News newspaper website at www.tnbun.com. You can subscribe, get the newspaper that comes out quarterly. You'll see Brother Shabaz's book that's in there, along with the other authors that are part of the showcase. You don't want to miss that. You can also go on to our YouTube channel, on YouTube, the National Black Unity News. You'll be able to see our logo on there, the red, black, and green logo. You can go on there and see other great authors that are on there, part of the showcase that come on. I want to thank you again, Brother Malik, for joining us. We want to thank y'all for tuning in to the Author Showcase, and we will see you all next time. Have a good evening.